The camera is mounted in the upper left corner of a Citgo gas station at 4117 Beatties Ford Road, Charlotte, North Carolina. The timestamp reads March 14, 2023, 9:47 p.m. The footage is grainy the way budget security cameras always are at night, but clear enough for everything that matters. You see a woman walk into frame from the left. She is wearing a burnt orange puffer jacket, dark jeans, and white sneakers. She carries a small black crossbody bag on her right shoulder. She walks to pump number 3 and swipes a card. She glances at her phone once. She tilts her head slightly like she just read something that made her pause. She pockets the phone. She begins pumping gas. For 11 seconds, nothing happens. She stands with her left hand resting on the pump handle, her right hand hanging loose at her side. Then a dark blue Dodge Charger with no front license plate rolls slowly into the lot from the Beatties Ford Road entrance. It does not stop at a pump. It parks along the far edge, engine running, headlights off. The woman does not turn around. The nozzle clicks. She replaces it. She screws the gas cap back on. She walks toward the station's front door, and just before she reaches it, she stops. She turns around. She looks at the Charger. 7 seconds pass. Then she walks toward it. That is the last time Tamara Osei is seen alive. Her body was found 4 days later, on March 18, 2023, by a kayaker navigating the shallows of Mountain Island Lake, 2.3 miles north of that gas station. She was partially submerged in the reeds near the eastern bank, her orange puffer jacket still zipped to her chin. The medical examiner determined cause of death as manual strangulation. Time of death was estimated between 10 south p.m. and midnight on March 14th. Most people assumed this was random. A woman alone at a gas station at night, a predator cruising, terrible timing. That is what someone very deliberately wanted people to believe. Wrong. This was never random. This was inheritance. This was a family watching $2.5 million walk toward a courtroom and deciding the simplest solution was to make sure the woman carrying it never arrived. Tamara Osei was born June 3, 1978 in Kumasi, Ghana, the second of 4 children born to Emmanuel and Beatrice Osei. Her father taught secondary school mathematics. Her mother sold fabric at the Kajetia market 6 days a week. They were not wealthy, but they were deliberate. Every decision in that household was made with intention, and Tamara carried that quality her entire life. She came to the United States in 1999 on a student visa, enrolling at Johnson C. Smith University in Charlotte, where she studied healthcare administration. She graduated in 2003 and found herself drawn toward direct patient care after volunteering at a hospice facility her senior year. She later described that experience to her younger sister Abena as the first time she felt she was standing exactly where she was supposed to stand. She earned her home health aide certification in 2005 and spent the next 15 years building a reputation in Charlotte's home care community that was, by every account, extraordinary. She was known for 3 things: her patience, which never felt performed; her cooking, she brought food to every patient she cared for, not because any agency required it, but because she believed eating well was part of healing. Her jollof rice became something of a legend among the families she worked with. And she kept a journal. Every single night, regardless of exhaustion, she wrote in a burgundy leather notebook bought in bulk from a craft store on South Boulevard. She had been doing it since age 14. By the time she died, she had filled 41 of them. She had a daughter, Nadia, born in 2007, whose father had returned to Ghana when Nadia was 2. Tamara raised her alone with the same deliberate calm she applied to everything. She went to every school event, every single one. Former colleagues described her showing up to parent-teacher nights still in her scrubs because she had come directly from a patient's house. She never missed one. In September 2019, Cornerstone Home Health Services matched Tamara with a new client. His name was Ellis Beaumont. He was 67 years old, a retired residential contractor who had built most of his career in the Steel Creek area of southwest Charlotte. He had been diagnosed with ALS 14 months earlier. He was a widower. His wife Catherine had died of ovarian cancer in 2014, and he lived alone in a 4-bedroom house on Shopton Road West that he had built himself in 1991. He had one son, Marcus Beaumont, who lived with his wife Brielle in Mooresville, 30 miles north. Ellis was a proud and quietly generous man. He coached youth baseball for 11 years. He kept a vegetable garden he shared with the entire block every summer. He was not a man who accepted help easily, and when ALS began stealing his body from him piece by piece, the difficulty of that loss was visible on his face every day. Tamara saw it. Rather than pretend it wasn't there, she acknowledged it directly and moved on. That, according to Ellis himself, was why he trusted her. She arrived every morning at 7:30 a.m. She left every evening between 6 and 7 p.m. She helped him bathe, dress, eat, and navigate a body becoming unfamiliar to him. She read him history books in the evenings. She drove him to appointments at the Carolinas Medical Center ALS Clinic on Blythe Boulevard every third Tuesday. She learned to adjust his communication device when his speech deteriorated in 2021. She planted tomatoes in his backyard garden in spring 2022 because he told her he was afraid it would die before he did. The $2.5 million was not impulsive. Ellis had been planning it since winter 2021. He called his estate attorney, Gerald Whitmore of Whitmore and Associates on South Tryon Street, on December 9, 2021. He met with Whitmore in person on December 22nd and again on January 11, 2022. The updated will was signed and notarized on January 19, 2022, 14 months before Tamara's death. It designated Tamara as the primary beneficiary of his estate. The Shopton Road property valued at $680,000, a brokerage account holding $1.4 million, a savings account with $310,000, and 2 rental properties in Hidden Valley valued together at $440,000. Total estate approximately $2.83 million. After costs and taxes, Tamara's inheritance was estimated at $2.5 million. Marcus Beaumont found out on February 3, 2022, 15 days after the will was signed. His father told him himself on a Sunday afternoon over the phone. That call lasted 11 minutes. What was said is not documented, but what happened in the 24 hours after it is. Marcus called his wife Brielle at 4:52 p.m. immediately after hanging up with his father. That call lasted 34 minutes. At 7:18 p.m. the same evening, Marcus called a man named Devlin Crouch, a former subcontractor with 2 prior felony convictions for fraud and 1 for assault. That call lasted 8 minutes. At 9 a.m. the following morning, Marcus withdrew $4,000 cash from a Bank of America branch in Mooresville. He had not made a cash withdrawal that size in the previous 2 years. Marcus was 41. He worked as a regional sales manager for a building supply company in Concord. Below the surface, he had accumulated $178,000 in personal debt between a failed restaurant investment in 2019 and a second mortgage taken in 2021. His credit score as of January 2022 was 541. His father's estate was not an abstraction. It was a lifeline he had already mentally spent. Brielle was 38. Organized and socially fluent in the way that people who have thought through worst-case scenarios tend to be. Investigators would later describe her as the more methodical of the two. Devlin Crouch was the instrument. Marcus was the money. Brielle was the plan. For 13 months, Marcus and Brielle attempted 3 separate legal strategies to contest the will. In March 2022, they filed a capacity challenge arguing Ellis lacked mental competence. Dismissed in May 2022 after Ellis's neurologist confirmed his cognitive function was fully intact. ALS attacks the motor system. His mind was entirely his own. In August 2022, they argued undue influence. Dismissed in November 2022 after neighbors, colleagues, and Ellis's pastor testified he had spoken openly and voluntarily about his decision. In January 2023, their attorney withdrew from the case entirely. Ellis Beaumont died on March 10, 2023 at 3:14 a.m. in his home on Shopton Road West. Tamara was not there. A hospice nurse was present. Nadia later told investigators her mother cried for 2 hours after the call, then sat at the kitchen table and wrote in her journal until nearly 4 a.m. Probate was set to open March 20th. Tamara had an appointment with Gerald Whitmore scheduled for March 15th at 10 a.m. She never made it. On the morning of March 14th, Tamara woke at 6:45 a.m. She made tea. She made Nadia's lunch, a turkey sandwich, an orange, and a small container of sliced pineapple Nadia had specifically requested. She drove Nadia to Garinger High at 7:50 a.m. and waited until she watched her walk through the front doors at 7:58 a.m. She stopped at a grocery store on Eastway Drive for milk, plantains, rice, and a sympathy card for Dorothy Sims, Ellis's 72-year-old neighbor who hadn't left her house since his death. Tamara had been checking on Dorothy every day since March 10th. She dropped the card and soup at Dorothy's door at 9:15 a.m. She called her sister Abina in Accra at 11 a.m. That call lasted 47 minutes. Abina later told investigators Tamara sounded tired but clear. She spoke about the Whitmore appointment the next morning. She spoke about what she planned to do with some of the money: a college fund for Nadia, a trip back to Ghana, a donation to the hospice facility where she had first discovered her calling. She did not sound afraid. That same morning, at 9:22 a.m., Devlin Crouch's cell phone pinged a tower on Beatties-Ford Road, placing him within a mile of the Citgo station. At 10:05 a.m., Marcus called Crouch from a burner number traced to a prepaid track phone purchased at a Mooresville Walmart on March 1st. That call lasted 4 minutes and 9 seconds. Brielle's personal cell phone went dark at 8 a.m. on March 14th and did not reconnect to any tower until 7:45 a.m. the following morning. She later claimed she had left it home while running errands. No receipts, no cameras, no witnesses confirmed a single one. At 6 p.m., Tamara picked Nadia up from school. They stopped at a Chick-fil-A on Central Avenue. Nadia ordered a spicy deluxe. Tamara ordered a grilled chicken sandwich and lemonade. Nadia later told investigators she remembered the meal clearly because her mother had laughed at something on her phone and shared the video: a dog running into a glass door. They laughed together in the parking lot before driving home. At 8:30 p.m., Tamara told Nadia she was making a quick run for gas. She wanted a full tank before her appointment in the morning. She kissed Nadia on the forehead. She put on her orange puffer jacket. She left the house on Barrington Drive at 8:41 p.m. She stopped at the Citgo on Beatties-Ford Road at 9:47 p.m. She checked her phone at the pump and tilted her head. Someone had sent a message from a prepaid number. "I have something from Mr. Ellis. Documents he wanted you to have. I'm near Beatties-Ford. Can you meet me quick? It's important." She had never received a message from that number before. She walked toward the charger. She got in. The car pulled out at 9:53 p.m. and turned north on Beatties-Ford Road. A traffic camera at the intersection of Beatties-Ford and Mount Holly Huntersville Road captured it at 9:57 p.m. After that, nothing. The road narrows north of that intersection, running along the western edge of Mountain Island Lake through unlit 2-lane road lined by trees. The medical examiner confirmed Tamara died between 10 p.m. and midnight. Manual strangulation. bruising consistent with a struggle, no evidence of sexual assault. She was placed in the water after death, weighted with a cinder block tied to her ankle with nylon rope, in shallow water that turned out to be not quite shallow enough. The kayaker who found her on March 18th, a 31-year-old man named Joel Ferris, photographing herons at 6 a.m., saw the orange jacket first. Nadia called police at 11:15 p.m. on March 14th. She was 16 years old, alone on Barrington Drive, calling 911 because her mother had gone to get gas and hadn't come home. The first 48 hours produced nothing. Detectives initially pursued a carjacking theory despite the absence of any evidence. Her car was found still parked at the Citgo at 1 a.m. That theory collapsed within hours. The case went quiet for 11 days. The break came from Gerald Whitmore. On March 22nd, 2 days after probate opened, Whitmore contacted CMPD Homicide and told them about the will, the 3 failed legal challenges, and the February 2022 phone call in which Ellis had told Marcus about the change. He had not come forward sooner because he hadn't wanted to accuse without support. But when Marcus arrived with a new attorney attempting a 4th challenge on the grounds that the primary beneficiary was now deceased, Whitmore decided he had waited long enough. Detectives pulled phone records within 4 days. The track phone used to send Tamara the bait message traced to a Mooresville Walmart. Store surveillance from March 1st showed Marcus Beaumont purchasing it at 2:34 p.m. His face was clear, his F-150 visible in the lot. The track phone's complete call log showed 7 calls between it and Devlin Crouch's number between March 1 and March 14th. Devlin Crouch was arrested April 6, 2023, at a motel off I-85 in Gastonia. He had $6,200 cash in a duffel bag under the bed and Nike sneakers with trace lakeshore sediment embedded in the soles matching samples taken from the eastern bank of Mountain Island Lake. His DNA was recovered from beneath Tamara's fingernails. Within 72 hours of his arrest, he gave investigators everything. Marcus had paid him $15,000 total. $4,000 in February 2022 as a retainer, $11,000 in 2 cash installments in early March 2023 to follow Tamara, learn her routines, and ensure she never reached her March 15th appointment. He confirmed Brielle had been present at a meeting in a Cracker Barrel parking lot off I-77 in Mooresville on March 8, 2023, at which the final plan was discussed. Marcus and Brielle Beaumont were arrested April 11, 2023. Marcus was taken from his Concord office at 10:30 a.m. Brielle was taken from the Mooresville house at 10:47 a.m. A neighbor later told a local news station that Brielle had been watering a flower bed when the police cars turned onto their street, that she had watched them come without running, that she had set the hose down very slowly and turned off the water before they reached her. The trial began November 7, 2023, in Mecklenburg County Superior Court before Judge Annette Holloway, both charged jointly with first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and solicitation of murder. Devlin Crouch had pleaded guilty in September to second-degree murder in exchange for his testimony and received 31 years. The prosecution, led by ADA Carolyn Marsh, was architectural in its precision: phone records, bank records, Walmart surveillance. A Cracker Barrel receipt paid on Brielle's credit card at 12:47 p.m. on March 8th, placing her at that parking lot meeting. Crouch's testimony was detailed and consistent, corroborated at every documentable point. The moment that decided the trial came November 21, 2023, during the examination of digital forensics analyst Raymond Chu. Chu testified that Brielle's phone had been powered off manually at 8:00 a.m. on March 14th and powered back on at 7:45 a.m. the following morning. He testified that in 17 months of records examined, Brielle Beaumont had never once powered her phone completely off for an extended period. Not once. The defense had no answer. Aide Marsh let it sit in the courtroom for a long moment before moving on. The jury deliberated 9 hours over 2 days. On December 1, 2023, at 2:18 p.m., they returned guilty verdicts on all counts for both defendants. Judge Holloway sentenced Marcus Beaumont to life without parole on December 19th. Brielle received the same. They were let out separately. Brielle did not look at Marcus as she was taken through the side door. She did not look at anyone. Tamara Osei was 17 when the verdicts came in. She sat in the courtroom with her aunt Abina, who had flown from Accra in November and had not left Charlotte since. Abina told a reporter outside that the verdict was right, but that it returned nothing, that Nadia still woke some mornings and made 2 cups of tea before she remembered. Ellis Beaumont's estate remained in probate litigation for 14 months. Because the will named no secondary beneficiary and Tamara died without a will of her own, the $2.5 million passed after extended legal proceedings to Nadia as Tamara's sole heir. Gerald Whitmore handled the case personally and waived his fees. The money cleared in May 2024. Nadia enrolled at North Carolina A&T State University that fall to study environmental science. There are things in this case that cannot be walked back once you see them. The first, when someone contests a will and loses 3 times, and the person named in that will turns up dead 6 days before probate opens, that is not coincidence. It is a timeline. If you are ever named in an estate and the excluded parties begin behaving with urgency, legal challenges, unusual contact, sudden interest in your routines, pay attention. That urgency is telling you something. The second is the bait message. Tamara received a text from an unknown number claiming to have documents from Ellis. She was grieving, and she was practical, and the message combined both vulnerabilities perfectly. It offered her something she wanted, through a channel she couldn't verify. If anyone contacts you through an unknown number claiming to have something belonging to someone you've recently lost, do not meet them alone. Do not meet them at all until you've verified who they are through a source you already trust. The third is the phone. Brielle powered her personal cell completely off for nearly 24 hours. In 17 months of records, she had never done it before. People living clean lives do not turn off their phones for a day around a murder. Unusual digital behavior around a significant event is not coincidence. It is preparation. The fourth is the cash. Marcus withdrew $4,000 the morning after learning about the will. He had made no similar withdrawal in the previous 2 years. Cash is how people pay for things they cannot put their names on. Unusual cash behavior around an inheritance dispute is not accidental. The Citgo on Beatties Ford Road is still there. Pump 3 still works. The camera in the upper left corner was replaced in July 2023 with a higher resolution model. But on March 14, 2023, the old camera was running, and it caught 11 minutes and 44 seconds of a woman living the last ordinary moments of her life, pumping gas, checking her phone, standing at the edge of the light. She had a journal at home, half filled. She had plantains on her kitchen counter. She had a daughter asleep on Barrington Drive who would wake up the next morning expecting her mother to be there. She walked toward that car because she was still trying to do right by a man she had cared for and loved. That was who she was. That was the specific quality Marcus and Brielle Beaumont used to kill her. If she had known, would she have done anything differently? 7 seconds. The footage gives you 7 seconds to wonder. She cared for him for 3 years. She sat with him when his hands stopped working. She planted his tomatoes. She read him history. She stayed until he could no longer ask her to. He left her everything he had. And the people who believed that money was theirs by birth decided her life was worth less than their debt. Some people will do anything to take what they were never given. And some people will give everything and still not be safe from the ones who are only counting.